G'day and welcome to Kenty Blitz, your daily hit of NRL news. Big show today, Kenty, including some Ask Kentys at the end of the show. But let's get straight into it for our last show of the week. Kenty, do Newcastle have any chance tonight?
It's a funny one, Loz. Look, I thought it was interesting to talk about this tonight because I don't think they're any hope, Newcastle. And it's a fascinating story because Jackson Hastings got named 18th man. I thought, okay, that's a subtle way of just slowly bringing him into the side.
Give him a bone. Yep.
Give him a bone. Look, just get him in there without anybody hitting the alarm button. What's he doing? But apparently he's not going to play. Okay? He's not going to play for the Knights.
No chance.
No chance of playing. He's not going to be named. He, for whatever reason, he's out, and we've all got heard our different innuendo about that. But the thing about it that fascinates me, Kalyn Ponga, their star player, the highest paid player in the game, has not scored a try this year for Newcastle. Now, Newcastle's attack has suffered all season. We've all spoken about it. We're all waiting for it to change. They had that little bright moment where they scored 24 first half points against Penrith a few weeks back. And part of us thought, well, okay, we're starting to turn. Then they went out last week and they were terrible again. Adam O'Brien's really got to find a way to do two things. First, start scoring some points, getting his team to score some points. But second, he's got to kickstart Kalyn. Now, I know he's carrying injury, but that's not an excuse for me. It's an issue that the highest paid player in the game, the linchpin of your attack, the guy that you basically build your attack around, has not scored a try this season. Now, the Knights have got to figure that out. I thought Jackson Hastings coming back in the side might actually unlock that because he is a traditional playmaking half, and the Knights halves are having trouble getting the Knights around the park.
So do you think Kalyn's out of form, or do you think it's more a case of the halves aren't getting him the ball?
I think it's a bit of both, but I think halves play him back into form. Okay, that's the issue. I just, for the life of me, cannot explain why he hasn't scored a try. He's not getting the ball in good position. It's up to the halves to set the play up, to get the right shape as we talk about and all that. So Kalyn gets the ball where he's got the opportunity to beat the guy, skip outside him like he does so well, and go around and then slice through with a bit of a show and go, or he puts up his outside defenders across if the defenders commit to him. But he's not doing that. He's not getting the ball in the right position. He's getting the ball like an under-12 who basically looks at the defence in front of him and figures out where he's going to run. So the Knights, what do? I don't know how they can beat Manly tonight if they can't score points. Because the one thing Manly are doing, that they're a little bit inconsistent themselves, but when they're kicking and they've got a couple of backs and whatnot who are really starting to find their feet at the moment, Lehigh Opawati and all the rest of it. The Knights, Manly are capable of scoring points.
Ponga's the only fullback in the NRL to play more than 8 games to have not scored this season.
What does that say?
Yeah,
he's the most devastating attacking fullback in the league. He's played only fullback, played more than 8 games and hasn't scored a try. That's an extraordinary fact. That shows you that something is systematically wrong at Newcastle, that they can't find space to get him over the line. If other players were scoring around him, you'd say not a problem. He's drawing the defence. He's being used as the magnet for the defence, and he's creating opportunities elsewhere. But their defence is shocking. Their attack is shocking. So what's he do? What's happening now? Apparently Hastings is walking around. He's been enjoying the cakes up at Newcastle. He's walking around about 100 odd kilos in weight.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. So look, and that's not what halfbacks can play at these days. Okay, not that they ever played at that weight. So I think he's sort of acknowledged or accepted the fact that he's not going to play first grade this season.
Isn't it?
It is a shame. And what it says for his career, what it does for his career, I don't know. But to kick off the weekend with this game, bit of a disappointment for me because it's just not a game that's going to really live up to expectations. I just don't see what Newcastle are really trying to do there. And look, to have the best fullback, the most attacking full outside Reece Walsh, obviously, unable to score a try this season, just indicates categorically what's wrong at Newcastle.
Let's just stay on Ponga for a minute because I just want to know what you think. With Reece Walsh coming back, does Ponga have to play well? I mean, of course, you've got to play well to stay in the Queensland side, but how's that? How are they going to play that out?
It's got to be an interesting one for Billy. Billy Slater's got a lot of decisions to make ahead of this, after this weekend when he picks his side. One of those is Ponga, who is out of form, not playing well, and does he gamble on Reece Walsh coming back? Now, a lot of that will come down to how Reece Walsh plays this weekend in his first game back for Brisbane. But the other part that fascinates me too with the whole Queensland thing is the word is, Warren, that Daly is gone, that he won't be picked. The captain's gone. Yep, so he's out. So, and they look like bringing in Tom Dearden at halfback. Okay, that. For me, if that's the way it goes, and this sounds like I've got it the wrong way around, but if Queensland make a lot of changes this week, most people come out and look at the side and go, well, yep, look, I like the side. They fixed the problems from the game one.
Yep.
So there'll be a real positive hit about the changes. I think if they make a lot of changes, it's a real alarm for what's happening in Queensland. Two reasons. One, Dearden is not a great halfback. He's a tremendous competitor. His preferred position is 5'8".
Good runner of the ball.
His statistics, as they've been portrayed to be, he's had 29 games now at halfback, starting halfback. He's won 2. Okay. Now, a big part of that was when he was back at Brisbane. He was playing halfback for Brisbane when they went on that losing streak. But for a halfback to play 29 games and only win 2 of them is a concern. Now, one of those was last week when he played halfback for the Cowboys. Okay. But now Queensland are going to put him in as their starting halfback. Now, if that's the way they go, which is what we're led to believe so far, the other problem that causes is he doesn't have a kicking game. He doesn't have the kicking game like Daly Cherry Evans. Cherry Evans has got a big kicking game. Now, most importantly, if you're getting beaten in the yardage game by your opposition, your kicking game is crucial. That's where Daly Cherry Evans' kicking game would really come back and bring sort of almost equalise, particularly when you're playing against Mitch Moses and Nathan Cleary. 2
big kickers.
Massive kickers of the ball.
Yep.
Now, Dearden's kick is nowhere near as big as those. So just in the kicking game, Queensland will get beat. Munster's not the first string kicker if he's 5'8". Harry Grant can kick out a dummy half, but again, not really your first call to kick the ball. They've got guys who can kick, but they've got no one who is the primary kicker in their side other than Cherry Evans, who does have a pretty hefty boot on him. But if they don't go with Cherry Evans and they go this way, well, we know they're going to get beat in the kicking game, and they're already up against it in the yardage game. The other problem it tells me, though, if they have a lot of changes, is this whole Queensland ethos is dead.
Pick and stick.
Pick and stick, okay? Yeah. The whole Queensland aura has been built around picking blokes. Arthur Beetson out of reserve grade. We go right back to the very beginning, and we talk about Wally Fullerton-Smith came out of reserve grade. Guys out of form were picked and played their way back into form. This is what Queensland's always been about. Now, if Billy reacts, and we're led to believe he probably is going to go this way, and starts to make changes where he fixes, okay, this guy didn't play well, so I'm going to take him out, I'm going to put someone else in. That whole Queensland mystique, it's just been punctured. It no longer exists. And the irony, and this is a bit of a sweet irony, I think, for New South Wales fans, is Queensland are now doing what New South Wales have always done and what they used to take the mickey out of New South Wales for doing.
And New South Wales are doing what Queensland used to do.
Panic changes. Yep. Panic changes.
Yep.
Panic changes is what it was the history of New South Wales for a long, long time. And that Queenslanders used to sit back and smoke their cigarettes and laugh about, what about
Play
these
the banjos.
guys? Play their banjos, that's right, and chew on some corn. Okay. But that's what they
Continue
used
to follow us, Queensland fans. They've all just switched off now.
Oh, look, I'll stay with us because, look, it's all fun and games. But
it's Thursday too, so we kind of lost the plot a bit.
We've got fatigue. But the thing is, that's a real concern. And so I'm fascinated to see what Team Billy comes up with this week. The Ponga, I can understand Reece Walsh coming back in. You can justify it. But again, that's what New South Wales used to do. They take Peter Sterling out and put Steve Mortimer in. Or, they do that with all sorts of players at different levels and over the years. And it's only when they really stick with it that New South Wales have really been in the contest. Now, Queensland it's going to be fascinating to watch, and I can't wait to see how they try and then reverse manage it to sort of explain why they had to do what they had to do and how the Queensland pick and stick policy is still alive and well.
What would you make Gordy say?
I've got no idea. Well,
the interesting thing is about is Ponga is there was a bit of news that he met with the head of the International Rugby League and that whisper that he might head back to or apply to play for New Zealand. AJ Brimson's just got clearance to play for England, where he played a nines tournament for Australia. So anyway, that's not a concern. But the interesting...
Well, that'll take him out of Origin, won't it, if that happens. So that's the issue there for certainly what we're talking about now. So, and look, Kalyn has always sort of flirted with that part of the game. So look, if he does it, look, I've got no problem with him doing that. Good luck to him. Yeah, the only thing is you can't play Origin when you do it. So we'll see how he goes.
The reverse of Queensland's obviously New South Wales, and Laurie Daly sitting pretty.
Oh, he's just back. Yeah, he's just sitting back, getting his nails done, Laurie. The only thing he's really had to worry about at the moment is obviously Mitch Barnett's out, and he's got to look at what he's going to do in the front row area. But
hearing any whispers there?
Well, he's spoiled for choice. Yeah, is the first thing. Look, Keon Kalamatangi is the guy that they're looking. I think it's probably, if you put them all in a line now, he'd have his toes in front.
Okay.
Part of that, I think, is he just fits that. He's a bit like Barnett. He's not a big forward. He's certainly robust, but he's got a big engine. Can play plenty of minutes. He's dynamic, and so he fits in there. And the great benefit of having someone like him is if there is an injury, he's got more minutes in him,
and he can cover the back row as well.
Yes, and he can cover that. So he fits. He ticks a lot of boxes. Terrell May, look, I don't think he's got to get there. He did come out this week, and he basically apologised for what he said on Twitch.
You happy with that?
He's done his time. Absolutely, let's forgive and forget. It was not that big a crime. It's just a bit of bravado on there with his mate. Someone's recorded it, which is what they do these days, and they put it out there. But I don't think he really meant it. Is the first thing. I think he was just being, he's entitled to be a little bit annoyed when he's playing so well and he misses out on selection.
Yep.
But I don't think he, went to the heart. I just think it was just an off-the-cuff comment, as a bit of a bravado with his mate. But to sit there and want to hang him over that and not pick him and blackburn him because of that, it's just ridiculous. And so I'd love to see him get picked, to be honest, because I think Origin is his arena. I think he would excel in that area. And I'd like to actually see him get tested in that area too. Yeah, because not to say he hasn't been tested, but I reckon it'd reveal a fair bit about him. I reckon you'd probably walk away with a guy you think, you know what, there's a fair bit going here.
Yes. Just a quick question, mate. Why don't you, with these whole pick your New South Wales team, we haven't done that? No interest?
Well, yeah, because, mate, I actually don't care when... I find it fascinating if people want to pick their New South Wales team. Here's my New South Wales team. Who cares? Honestly, if I give you my New South Wales team or my Queensland team, does anyone pay attention? You know what I mean? It is a media invention. You know what I mean? It's something to fill space. So... the one thing I'll never do is sit here and tell you who my New South Wales team is or my Queensland
team. I won't ask you that question. I won't ask him that question then.
But I just think it's a media invention. No one pays any attention to it. All you do is basically put your chin out and wait, ask them for a hit, really, because no one will say, yeah, good team. They just say, well, mate, what about this guy?
You miss that guy. You miss that guy,
yeah. Yeah, it's a funny one, but a lot of people love to put out their team and think it has some sort of significance in this world, but... You don't
think Laurie watches? And
could you imagine Laurie?
Yeah.
So that's what Bulldog thinks.
Yeah, that's who Buzz picked.
That's who who cares?
Mate, Craig Bellamy looks like he's going around another year.
Yeah, really good news for Storm, obviously. But
good for the NRL too, right?
Really good news for the NRL was from the point of view that the NRL is about to expand now. We've got Bears coming in 27. We've got Papua New Guinea in 28. So all the rosters are going to get rated a little bit, okay? There's going to have to be 60 to 80 players, depending on what they do and how heavy they go over there, who are going to be sort of ripped out of other clubs in the NRL. And the last thing the NRL need right now, particularly as they start to go into the broadcast negotiations as well, is the Storm starting to fade a bit. The NRL very deliberately at the start of the Storm's existence, they allowed them to pick sign a lot of players other clubs were not allowed to sign. Yeah. So basically these players had no choice but to go to Melbourne. Yeah. But that said, and this is like the likes of Brett Kamali and Scott Hill, who played for Australia. Robbie Kearns is another. They came from Hunter Mariners and the Adelaide Rams and the Perth Reds at the time. They came from all those sorts of areas. So, the NRL can't risk Melbourne dropping off the perch. They need Melbourne to be successful. We're just seeing the AFL that apparently Tasmania, it might be about to hit the skids there. Their expansion club down there. It's a really bad look for them.
You've been reading AFL news, have you?
Look, I see the headlines. But look, I don't want to enjoy others' misery,
Oh.
Warren. Okay, I don't want to do that. No, but look, that's obviously around. Look, of course I read the papers, but that's around, and that's a concern. It's an embarrassment for the NRL, for the AFL, that situation.
Well, everyone keeps death knelling Papua New Guinea, right?
They do, and so it's vital that the NRL get these two expansion clubs to work, but they can't let them work, and then suddenly we look up and Melbourne are failing. And the one thing that's going to keep Melbourne strong through this period, when these two new clubs go out into the market and try and rip players out, what will keep Melbourne going is Craig Bellamy. If you lose Craig Bellamy, then there's every chance you could probably lose 2 or 3 top-line stars who are going to go to those other clubs for top dollar, which they're already on pretty good money at Melbourne, but they'll go there as like the franchise-type players. So it's a great result for the Storm and the NRL, and I actually think it'd be nice if the NRL can somehow try and convince him to stay at least until 28 when the other two clubs are bedded down.
They seem to have an unbelievable football department down there too. You know?
That's just they're just so
Parisi
precise.
they're just very good.
Panisi's turned in one of the great football managers, and him and Bellamy work so well together. They don't get every decision right, but what they are very good at is identifying the guys who don't fit their culture, and they move them on pretty quickly, and they move them on pretty quietly. So there's not much blowback. So they are the model that you want to run your club by, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway,
I heard a story about an Origin forward who went down to play in Melbourne towards the end of the career, and Bellamy got him down and just pretty much straight away saw him at training, said, "Mate, you're not good enough," and you know, quietly got rid of him.
That's what they do. They just say, "Mate, you know, there's better opportunities for your elsewhere." Is how I think they put it.
Yeah, very good, mate. Where does Bellamy?
He won't let you down.
Yeah, where does Bellamy sit? You know, in the greatest coaches of all time. Do you think?
I think he sits on the top shelf with whoever you want to put up there. Like,
who would you put up there?
Look, in the modern era, and I would say the modern era. For me, the modern era began with Jack Gibson. From the point of view, you know, and I say this, Jack Gibson made coaching important. Warren Ryan showed him why.
Yeah, that's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good.
They are the two. There was a period there through particularly the 80s, where every coach was either influenced by Jack Gibson or Warren Ryan, and they were vastly different styles. But every coach that was coaching somewhere had some sort of connection to either one of them. And now, over time, Warren Ryan's method and his style of coaching was the one that basically dominated, and they all do that now. They all do basically a bit of both, to be fair, but they all went the Warren Ryan way first because it was the more winning way, and then the Jack Gibson man management stuff has always come in. Wayne Bennett's a bit of an anomaly in that area. He's still very much a Jack Gibson type coach. But it goes back to Jack Gibson, Warren Ryan. They're on the top shelf. It's a disgrace that Warren Ryan is not in the Hall of Fame as a coach. The fact that Wayne Bennett, no knock on Wayne, but Wayne Bennett should never have been put in there in front of him.
Until he retired.
Oh, well, Wayne's still coaching. He's still active. Wayne will definitely be there
Of course.
and deserves 100% to be there. But the fact that he went in before Warren Ryan, who hasn't coached for 20 years, I just think it's something that needs to be fixed by the NRL. But there's probably only 4 you'd put on that top level, which is Jack, Warren,
Bellamy,
Wayne. Yeah, and you could probably argue a little bit around that. You know, Sheens, Fulton.
And I saw he only had a 50% win rate, I think. People will pull me up on that. I know they will, but I'll get slammed about that.
Feedback down below, please.
Feedback down below.
But the thing about all that, look, see, Bellamy's only coached one club, okay?
But he's got like a 68% win rate. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, but Bellamy's in charge of his own. After those first few years, he was in charge of his own destiny, so to speak.
Yeah.
So for like Jack left Parramatta and went to Cronulla, who weren't going that well. So he had to basically take this ragtag bunch. Now, Jack coached Newtown, who were a ragtag bunch in the early 70s. He coached St George for a little while there. Coaches don't take over teams in good spots. Yeah, it's very hard to take over.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so you've got to sort of build them up for something. So a lot of those coaches have got losing records. It's because they've had to get in there, and it's taken them 2 or 3 years to turn the club around. Now, Craig hit the ground running. He had a reasonably good side at Melbourne. but they weren't a finals contender. But he scraped them into the finals his first year. And the brilliance of what he's done is, other than 2010 when they got caught cheating the salary cap, and there's a little asterisk you can put next to your coaching record, but other than 2010, they've made the finals every year, which those other three coaches can't all claim to be.
Yeah, with 4 or 5 different squads, right?
Yeah.
Turning over those players.
Yeah, but even Wayne has taken over. Like when Wayne went to Newcastle, they weren't travelling that flash, so he had to try and build them up again. Now, he did a good job. He improved the club. But he's still, his winning percentage took a bit of a bash because it was taking over a team that wasn't travelling that well. But yeah, there's been some great coaches.
How is Tinkler going, by the way?
Has not been heard from. I don't think so. I don't know where he's at. Yeah. I think he's broke, isn't he?
Yeah, don't know.
We'll
anyway,
wait and see.
Comment below, mate. How do those guys, or how does Bellamy compare to the modern guys? We're talking about Trent Robinson.
Yeah, but
I know he's better than him, but where do you rank those other guys? Ivan Cleary, Trent Robinson.
Well, Cleary's putting together a record now that's hard to argue. Like it was fascinating. Cleary at one point had coached the second most amount of games behind Brian Smith without ever winning a comp, and when he lost that first premiership with Penrith. Now, I know he'd been in another one with the Warriors, but when he lost that first one with Penrith, it all got brought up again, and there was questions about whether he can actually deliver a team, as there was with Brian Smith. Then, obviously, he's gone on. He's won the next 4, so he's just killed that. That's all over. Look, the modern coaches are very, very good. They're across it all. They're across the technical aspect, the X's and O's, the planning, but they're also across the man management, having to look after blokes, having to get, they get the midnight phone call, bloke's just broken up with his missus, he needs help, all that sort of stuff.
He's in jail.
Yeah, and Jack was the first guy. Jack was always one of those, the Vince Lombardi school, be accountable for yourself. Okay. But Jack knew everything, and Jack knew everything about his play. So if a guy was doing a bit hard money-wise, Jack could help him out with a little bit. You know what I mean? Right. So Jack, there's a great story, actually. Jack, he got, when he was coach of the Roosters, they were going through a bad patch. So he said to the guys, listen, no more going after Thursday night training, no more going to the pub. He said, we'll stop drinking, get out of the pub, and we're going to start taking it a bit more serious. So anyway, a couple of blokes didn't listen to that. They went to the pub. Anyway, 2 of the forwards got in a blue at the pub with each other. Yeah. Okay. So the publicans kicked him out, and Johnny Peard and Johnny May thought, Jesus, let's get out of here. You know what I mean? Jack will kill us if he finds out there's been a blue. So they've gone home, and the first thing they did when they got home is Peardy rang Jack up and said, look, Jack, just letting you know, mate, started just talking generically to put it in Jack's head that he was at home. You know what I mean? Yeah. And Jack says, all right, and they talked about footy, a couple of things, and Jack said, right, no worries, all right, Peardy, no worries. All right, Peardy, I'll see you tomorrow, mate. And he said, okay, Jack said, oh, Peardy, one more thing. And he said, yeah, Jack, who won the fight?
Very good, very good, very good.
Yeah, so Jack knew everything, and Jack was the first man manager. Before then, the captains basically coached the clubs.
Yeah,
there was always a captains. That's why I say that they're the modern era. Jack came in, was first, he got rid of selectors. He was the guy that took over from the captain and said, no, this is what we're doing tonight. I picked the team and basically took that all out of the captain's hands.
Because it wasn't uncommon to have captain coach there.
Yeah, well, Ken Carney was captain coach, and Norm Proven captain coach. So there's a lot of them who did captain coach, but and the captains were the ones that basically ran the club. And Jack said, no, I'm going to be coach. I'm going to do it. So that's why Jack changed it all. And as I said, Warren Ryan showed why it needed to change.
Mate, you mentioned Brian Smith. Give me a quick Brian Smith story. What did you think of Brian Smith?
Oh, I thought he was great. Yeah, I thought he was very, very smart. Brian Smith, his worst enemy was Brian Smith. He felt, it's a bit. Look, I like Brian. He's a bit sort of sour on the game now because he doesn't receive the accolades he deserves. Part of that's because he basically had the ability to annoy so many people that there's almost a delight in not giving him his due, and the fact that he never quite got to that premiership. He overthought a lot of it, but he tried so hard, and he improved a lot of footballers. Like that's the thing. Nearly every guy that went and played under Brian Smith improved, but Brian's problem was too many head games with him. The players would he'd start to sour the players from him, just with the like he said to Joey Johns one day, Luke Walsh has got a better pass than you. And Joey's like, oh, please, come on. Right, you know what I mean? But he was just trying to get the best out of Joey.
Yes,
but it was just the wrong thing to say to Joey.
Yeah.
But he said it to Daddy Badeiras about a hooker at Newcastle. Poor old Bedgie, who's a bit, he's a warrior. He went away thinking, oh, what's he mean by that? And it sort of knocked him out of his game for a couple of weeks, you know what I mean? So and just those sorts of games didn't need to be played. But Brian Smith, very, very talented, knows his footy like few people do. But he just... Brian, I think if someone gave him good advice on the way through and he'd listened to it, he'd be in a much better place now.
Yeah, very good. He lost that unlosable final.
Well, that murdered him. 2001.
Mate, let's go through a few games for this weekend. Tonight's game, Knights Seagulls.
Yeah, I just can't see Newcastle scoring enough points to win the game.
Yeah.
Manly could. I think there'll be a lot of points in the game. I think Manly put a score on. But they could legitimately score 8 points and still win the game, Manly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
anyway.
just don't have any faith.
Mate, Storm Cowboys.
Don't put Kalyn Ponga in your try scorers.
Yeah. Anytime try scorer.
No.
Kalyn Ponga.
I don't care if he's paying $8. Don't put him in.
Storm Cowboys.
You've just got to go to Storm, yeah.
Dolphins Dragons.
I think Dragons been tough to beat. Dolphins should win the game. They've got the better spine, but the Dragons have been really tough to beat lately, and they're on the upswing.
Big game. I think it's 5th versus 3rd or 5th versus 2nd. Warriors, Sharks, Warriors.
Yeah, Sharks are at home.
Yeah.
I still like the Warriors. I just like what they're doing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And Sharks are a bit funny side. They're a bit dour.
Yeah, it's hard to watch the Sharks.
It will be a dour game between the pair of them. Be a very defence-oriented game, I'd imagine, out of those two.
Broncos, who have been through a
Who
hell
knows?
week. They play the Titans.
Who knows? Be interesting to see how both teams turn up. Titans are running last, which is a surprise. They're really good price if you're a gambling type. But
gamble responsibly.
Yes. But we'll see I think we'll see a bit of the soul of the Broncos this week, just on how they respond to everything that's happened in the past few weeks.
Well,
because there's no more excuses from them now. It's just basically, mate, you pull your finger out or kiss the season goodbye.
Let's hope so. I mean, one of the super clubs, they need to be performing.
Well, they do, yeah.
Mate, Raiders, Rabbits.
Raiders.
You're on the Raiders this year.
Well, they just keep winning, and as I said, I love the way they're playing. They play an unorthodox style. It's a new style. It's a lot of second phase play, and they're just young and hungry. And I just like the way they're going. I will say Souths have got Whiten and Walker back this week, which is two big ins for them. But I just think the Raiders have got too many points in them.
Mate, Tigers, Panthers. Luai looks like he's out for the Tigers.
Well, that just underlines the
fait
Panthers.
accompli. Yeah. And the last one is the Monday game, a cracker. Out at Core Stadium is Bulldogs Eels.
Yeah, Eels are going better than people give them credit for.
Yeah,
particularly with Mitch Moses in the side, they're scoring points. So I don't mind the Eels. Parramatta to start might not be a bad bet, but I think Bulldogs win the game. Should
be a big crowd out there. Looking forward to that. Okay. Couple of Ask Kentys to wrap off the week. We've got a few here. I'll go through them quickly. Stephen Barlow says Galvin has number 23 jersey instead of number 22 because the Bulldogs don't use number 18. Okay, thanks, we know that.
Well, that's good.
Yep.
And while we're correcting our errors, I said Craig Bellamy played 50 or 60 games yesterday. I think he's played 153 or something. So
yeah.
So
the point of the argument.
That doesn't matter. Anyway. People like to be right.
Yep. Z33 says last week's Origin build-up was the worst I can remember. There was nearly nothing. It's what we talked about all week about, there was no...
That's the issue, Warren. Yeah. That's the issue.
Anyway, so his question is...
we talked about Galvin all week instead of talking about Origin.
Yeah. He's saying it looks that looked like a bit of a turf war between News Corp and Nine slagging Gus. So his question is, how big of an influence, and this is all he's writing, by the way, how big of an influence does a journo's employee have on their content? Good question for you.
It can have some. It can have none. It just depends on the incident and what's happening and the temperature of the room at the time. Sometimes they come in. Yeah, and when I say we've had editorial interference, it's generally when the bosses come down and say, look, mate, let's just make things a little bit more positive rather than go and kick this guy. Every now and then you'd probably get an edict to, let's leave this bloke, lying on the floor bleeding. Can I say that? Look, it used to happen sometimes. I don't know if it happens anymore because I'm unemployed. So, in mainstream media,
we'll talk about that at the live show.
No, but the fact is, look, that they can have some slight interference in that regard, But as far as Origin build-up, there is no Origin build-up because no one in the Origin environment will say anything that is interesting. It is covered only because it's now a formality, and you would be seen as ignoring it if you didn't cover it. But if you had to actually cover it for its newsworthiness, you wouldn't say a word about Origin. There is nothing that anyone says that's interesting anymore. They're so terrified. This is the thing I don't get. Fighters will come out and they'll say the most disgusting things about each other. UFC fighters will say the same things, all sorts of horrible things, because they understand, mate, it's not going to make you want to punch me any harder. It's not going to make you want me to kick you any harder. So I'll just say it. I'll try and get under your skin and rankle you and try and get you off your game and get you thinking about things you shouldn't be thinking about. That's what Origin used to be about. It was the same mentality. Now there's this terror that they can't say it because it might give them something to motivate them. Like, honestly, if you need something more to be motivated to play Origin, what are you doing there? But anyway, I would, if I was running the game, I would refuse to. I would make every player up every third day has to speak. Has to speak.
Good stuff. Well, that's part of the move to try and get you to run the game. So we might see that soon.
Can you imagine
Ryan Johnson said he's loving the show. Good question. Where do we get those Blitz caps? Well, I can answer that. They'll be available in 2 weeks. James Hart says, Kenty, if you don't pick Nwanga Tinawase, who is the leading for Rookie of the Year, who do you pick? One answer?
Hot tamale. So
very good for
down
the Raiders.
Down the
Phenomenal
Raiders.
20-year-old.
Look, I think he's honestly, you know what? He's a winger. He's big, strong, but he's just got this aggro in him. He just wants to dominate people. You know what I mean? And for a young kid to have that aggression towards his opponent rather than just, I'll just get out and play my role, I reckon that's a super sign. The Raiders have got a couple of rookies this year that are really, really going to go strong. There's a few around, but...
Kenty, Great Balls of Fire 1969 says, Kenty, are you going to be in Las Vegas this year, and what's the best club to hit after hours?
Well, that's probably your question, Warren.
Yeah, okay.
Mate, I was at Vegas. I wasn't there this year. Obviously, I was there last year. And
we'll be there next year. We'll do a live show there next year.
I'll tell you something. They're saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Yeah. Well, my one is what happens in Sydney follows me to Vegas. So basically, when I was in Vegas, I spent every night talking footy with people. I didn't really know. Just want to come and have a beer and talk footy.
That's good, though.
Oh, yeah, it's not a problem. But
it's good for 8 minutes.
I could have been doing that, at the Unity. So.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll be there next year. Mate, Ian Roberts tomorrow on Prime Time. Great chat about whacking blokes. Phenomenal.
You know what? He talks about how Les Davidson used to pull him aside, teach him the way. And he said, mate, Les would teach us how to cut him in half.
Like, I'm being dead. We used to train to basically cut people, knock them out.
And I just love
goes down your back, right?
He's just a weapon, Ian Roberts. He's had a big week, unfortunately, this week. He's announced, revealed he had epilepsy. He talks a little bit about that, but he also talks about he was such a warrior in his game when he played. But, he said he's about to turn 60 in a few months.
Geez, he looks fit though, doesn't he?
He looks $1 million. But he's carrying the scars from those days, and this is something. I get a lot of criticism from people when I try and be an advocate for the head trauma. He's the living example of why we need to take this seriously. And all these young kids who, as he said, when you're 20, he said, I never thought I'd be 50. So I lived that way. And particularly his lifestyle. Like he was, as we know, he's gay, sexually promiscuous through the 80s. He said, how he dodged certain things back then was a miracle in itself. It's a really open and honest chat. I tell you what, he's an impressive guy.
A great watch. We've also, on Sunday morning, we've got Sean Garlick, the Pie King, on chiming in. That's a great show. So, that's it from us. Good luck to the Socceroos tonight. They play Japan over in Perth. If they win, they're through to the World Cup. We should go there as well.
Can't wait. I've been to 2.
Yeah, I know. All right, boys.
You carry me home at one.
Ladies. Put him over my shoulder and took him outside at one of them. Let's not do that again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next week, thank you very much. See you then.